إن شاء الله. هو من البهامز واسمه الأخ فريد أبو مجاهد، وقد درس في جامعة الإمام 7 إلى 8 سنين يقول. إن شاء الله تستفيدوا منه هذه الليلة. والمحاضرة بعنوان أهمية الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر في حياة الفرد والمجتمع. Lecturer. Okay, our lecturer tonight is Brother Farid. He's from Bahamas, and he studied in Imam University, Saudi Arabia, for 7 years. Inshallah, may Allah benefit you from his knowledge. The lecture is by the title, The Importance of Enjoining Good and Forbidding Evil at the Individual and Social Level. Inshallah, ندعكم معنا. شوف إن شاء الله.
إن الحمد لله all praises due to Allah. نحمده ونستعينه. We praise Him and we seek His help. ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. And we seek Allah's protection from the evil of ourselves and our bad deeds. من يهده الله فلا مضل له. Whoever Allah guides, there is no one who can lead him astray. ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. Whoever He allows to go astray, there is no one who can give him guidance. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. And I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship other than Allah, alone and without partners. وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is His servant and His messenger. أما بعد. فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله. The best narrative is the book of Allah. وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. The best guidance is that of our Prophet Muhammad صلى الله عليه وسلم. وشر الأمور محدثاتها. And the worst of affairs are those things that we introduce into this deen of ours. وكل بدعة ضلالة. And every innovation leads astray. كل ضلالة في النار. And every going astray is to the hellfire. Brothers and sisters, we'd like to briefly speak about the importance of commanding the right and forbidding the wrong in respect to the community at large and on an individual level. And before starting, there are certain things that we ought to keep in mind that are very important things in respect to this topic. And one of the things that we need to keep in the forefront of our minds is the purpose for our creation. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to serve Him, to worship Him. And it is for this reason that we exist as believers, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We also need to understand in respect to any deed that we perform. And seeing that we're speaking about the benefits, you always find the scholars in this deen speak about these things that prevent you from benefiting. And if they're absent, then you can say, inshallah, that there is some benefit to be had. And there are certain things that we need to keep in mind in beginning this particular topic. And one of the things that we need to keep in mind is that we ought to be focused whenever we command people to do what is right or forbid something that is forbidden in this deed, that we keep Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the forefront of our minds. With sincerity. And that we do it only for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that we're not hoping from the people around us that they reward us in any way or give us thanks. Ours is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day that we shall stand before Him. This is the sole purpose of us carrying out this command that is binding on different levels, as we will see inshallah from some of the other speakers. But this is important because a man or a sister, a brother or sister, might engage in a particular act, but they desire the life of this world. And the Prophet ﷺ gave us examples of how serious a consequence this is. That you seek, in your acts of worship, the pleasure of anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He mentions in a number of narrations. Among those narrations, the Prophet ﷺ pointed out the case of a person who was married fi sabilillah, or with a pair that way. This man was raised up and was questioned about the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave. But it will be said to him, you have lied. You only fought so that the people around you could say that this man was brave and courageous. And it was said, you received what you wanted in this life. And it will be commanded that this person whose blood was spilt will be commanded to be thrown in the hellfire. His focus and his objective was not on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the consequences of his deeds ended here. Another person who learnt and taught and recited Allah's book. And the time came for his soul to be taken, and it was taken, and he stood before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he shall also be reminded of the favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed him with. What have you done with it? He will say, I learned and I taught people for your pleasure. And I recited the Quran for your pleasure. And it will be said to him, you lied. You see, even if we can hide from people in this life, you can never hide from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On that day, the things that we wanted people not to see, that we were negligent in our focus and we thought that we could hide from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the things that are in our hearts, we will see that you cannot run from Allah. There is no refuge against Allah except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this man would be reminded about this, and Allah will bring the truth out. You lied. You taught people. And you spread the knowledge so that it could be said, this is a learned man. This is a man of knowledge. You recited the Quran so it could be said, this person was a reciter of the Quran. You had no thought about Allah when you did this. And so it was said just that. Your focus was not on Allah, not Allah's pleasure. And so this person who spent nights, exhausted himself so that he could learn Allah's book, learn the tafasir, the explanations of it, would find himself penalized because his focus and his intentions were not correct. And likewise the person who spends. In one narration we find from Abi Hurairah radiallahu anhu, in a similar wording, hadith similar to this, that he would pass out before narrating this hadith because he understood the serious consequences of it. And he would pass out. He would lose as if, get shaky as if he was about to fall out. And then finally it would happen. Because Allah's Messenger said that these are the first people who will be fuel for the fire. The focus wasn't right. And so one of the things that we need when embarking on this, and I'm just touching on it, this will be explained later inshallah in more detail, I'm sure. That, and along with that, because the companions used to say, we used to do a deed that you should only seek Allah's face with. And you seek a view of the people around you, we used to consider this shirk during the time of the Prophet. One of the things that we ought to keep in mind too, that will help us to truly benefit, that is to keep in focus the example of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is extremely important. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to say, the best guidance is that of our Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You shall find nothing, no individual better as a guide than our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no doubt in this. And so his example is the example that we strive to follow. And so this should also be in the forefront of our minds when we call and invite people. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ emphasized repeatedly when he spoke to his companions. And we have a number of examples when people deviated from this path. What happened? When I came in, something about the Khawarij. Those were a group of people who deviated in this area. And they deviated simply because they did not adhere to that sunnah in a complete way, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And they used their own thinking as a yardstick for what is right and what is wrong, and their deduction of things. So much so that it was easy for them to pass by a pig and consider it grave that you should scrape his skin, and that it was grave to pick up some date off the ground. There was nothing wrong with killing Abdullaah bin Khabbab and slaughtering him. There was nothing wrong with killing his wife. These people, some of them, in terms of their acts of worship, as the Prophet ﷺ described them, their salah, you would consider yours as nothing. Their fasting, you would consider yours as nothing. Their recitation of the Quran, you would consider yours as nothing. They were considered as the dogs of hell. These people, some of them used to have marks not only on their faces but on their hands from salah. The calluses that normally you find on some of the brothers' forehead, some of them used to have it on their nose and in the palms of their hands. And when killed by those who were fighting with Imam Ali radiallahu anhu, would shout out phrases that we're on our way to paradise. A person could be sincerely wrong, if he does not adhere to that particular path and understand it. And this is something that we have seen repeatedly here in the United States, and we will continue to see it as long as people disregard this aspect of our deen. One of the things, brothers and sisters, in respect to inviting and its importance, one of the things that we'd like to point out briefly for us to keep in the forefront of our minds, and that is knowledge and understanding. Not as we feel we should understand, but that type of understanding that was given to us from the Salaf. As the Prophet ﷺ pointed out when he dealt with his companions and he encouraged people, the type of understanding that they had. Because that generation, that particular group, they were not only good in terms of character, their understanding of the deen was the best understanding. This is why when the Prophet ﷺ described them, and he used the word khayr to describe them, it is the same word that he used when he spoke about the person for whom Allah desires good. مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. The person for whom Allah intends good, He gives him understanding of the deen. So when the Prophet ﷺ describes that generation as being khayr, you understand automatically that they understood their deen. Here the word khayr is used in the superlative form. In Arabic, sigatul tafdeel. The superlative, not the comparative. The superlative form. And it is for this reason the Prophet ﷺ very often referred back, if you want to be on the straight path, if you want to achieve what you ought to achieve in this life, then follow that path. Otherwise you would be like the Khawarij and those other people that came up who were sincere, who would stand up at night in prayer and then go out in the morning because of some misunderstanding, saying that anyone who commits a major sin, he has left the deen. Not only that, he has become an apostate and his blood is lawful to be taken. And for this misunderstanding, they spilled the blood of brothers and sisters. They didn't refer back to the Quran and the Sunnah. They didn't refer it back to the understanding that the Prophet ﷺ gave the companion. They didn't accept the advice. And so when they left that alone, it caused confusion. There is a misunderstanding, on the other hand, that we see in this day and time in respect to Iman, faith. We often hear in the communities outside, people say, brother, you know, it's what you feel in your heart. I'm a Muslim in my heart. It's in my heart. Ain't nothing wrong if I sell some liquor in the store, or if I take off my hijab. There's nothing wrong. I'm a Muslim at heart. I was born a Muslim. I embraced Islam a few months ago. It's in my heart. When the delegation of faith came to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him the meaning of Iman, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ explained that Iman is dynamic and that it involves actions of obedience and not what you feel alone. He defined it as the shahada and salah, as zakah and giving a fifth of the things that you received out of war. That he described as Iman. The understanding then that we have in this day and time, we need to keep in mind then the importance of following those three principles and not to be deceived by the shahada that we have taken and thinking that this is an automatic guarantee to bypass the hell and to go straight to paradise. According to the hadith, we have the Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever says, La ilaha illallah, he shall save him one day. Even though he might be afflicted before that. Don't you see that the Prophet ﷺ said there will be people of Ahlul Tawheed in Nar? Don't you see that the Prophet ﷺ said the fire doesn't consume the places of sujood? Don't be deceived that simply because we have the shahada that it's an automatic key. Yes, after some time. Wants to go with after understanding what Allah has said about it. Prophet ﷺ has defined this sunnah. We understand that. Then there are a number of things that we can benefit from on an individual level, as well as on a societal level, in respect to commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong. Many of these things, we have indications of them in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. One of the things that we find clearly, the benefits to community, when we command what is right and we forbid what is wrong. is that it protects us from an encompassing punishment on the community. Having the hadith of Hudayfa, Ibn al-Yaman, he says that the Prophet ﷺ, he swears, he says, in whose hand is my soul. Prophet ﷺ stole it. He said, you shall command what is right. When you see your brother telling a lie, you will tell him he's praying. When you see things going wrong in the community, you have the ability to say no. You shall speak. And if you have the ability to change it with your hands without causing fitna and confusion or greater confusion, you shall change it. You shall command what is right. And you will forbid what is wrong. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall send upon you a punishment. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send upon you a punishment. And you shall supplicate to Him and not be answered. One of the things then that we receive when we command what is right and we forbid what is wrong, we protect ourselves, and it is like an assurity, an extra assurity, that when we supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it will be answered. That we will receive. It's like closing the door to punishment. And when we lose and open up that door, and we see what is wrong going along, and we see the wrong happening, and we keep quiet, because we're afraid that such and such feelings might be hurt. Oh, I don't want to upset the sister. I don't want to upset the daughter. You know, he's kind of sensitive. But you can approach it in a way he's in hikmah, wisdom. You don't go and strike a person in the nose and say, stop that. You don't kick a person and say, quit. Don't you see that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Musa and Harun to Fir'aun, that He said to them, alayhim as-salam, to speak to them, to speak to him gently. This man who had seen Allah's signs at the hands of his prophet said, speak to him gently. One of the things we do then when we command what is right, we protect the community from an encompassing punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have otherwise sent down. There is another more, in my mind, simple narration of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, no man ever stands up amongst the people committing sins, and they have the ability to change it. And they have the ability to change it. Except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِلَّا أَصَابَهُمُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابٍ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَمُوتُوا. Except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down a punishment on them before they die. It's not delayed until the grave, before they die. So one of the things that we ought to keep in mind in respect to commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong is that we protect ourselves. We protect ourselves from Allah's anger. We protect ourselves in opening up the door of having our dua answered. We protect ourselves from being punished before we die. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he spoke about dua, he said it is worship. And we know that the narration he says the grain of worship is not authentic, but it is worship. And if it is an aspect of worship, we want to protect it. and not to close that door. From the things that you benefit from the society and from the brothers and sisters who command what is right and forbid what is wrong, is that it is one of the splendid ways of teaching. It is one of the most splendid of ways of imparting knowledge, if it is done correctly. And with that in mind, let us look at one of the narrations, one of the things that occurred in the lives of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And at the same time, let us learn from it. Here we have Zainab radiallahu anha. And this was the wife of Abdullaah ibn Mas'ud. She said there was an old lady who used to come to our home. And she used to make up these, what we call talismans or charms. When you have a fever or people think that you've been affected with an evil eye, she would put a little spell in it and a little hocus pocus and tie it up. And that you hang it on yourself and you hope that this thing would save you and get rid of the disease. She said, and we had a little bed or a little place that we used to sit on. It had tall stands. And it was the habit of Abdullaah, she's speaking about her husband, every time he came, probably because he knew that there might be sisters in the place, he would make a sound like he's clearing his throat to make some sound with his voice. So his wife would know, oh, this is Abdullaah. The sisters, knowing his habit, they would, straighten up, put on the hijab properly, and prepare for him to come in. So he did this one day. He came in, and this lady heard his voice, and she went and she covered herself the way a sister is supposed to cover herself in front of strangers. So he came and he sat by me, and he touched me. The adab of Islam to the families, gentleness and the kindness that they would show to their wives. Said he came and he sat down and he touched me. While he was touching me, he found that I had a spring or cord on my person. Now his personality changes. At first he comes in, he's greeting his wife with a pleasant face. Coming out from the day, he's happy to see his wife and he wants to make her comfortable. And so he touches her. But when he touches the string on the person, wearing a cord. And he says, what is this? And she goes on, and before she explains herself too well, he takes it and she says, this is an incantation, a little charm that was placed there for me. And he took it and he pulled it and he tore it off and threw it away. And he said these words. He said, the family of Abdullaah has become free of need, of any need of companionship. He said, I heard the Messenger of Allah ﷺ saying that these charms, these incantations, and what they call tiwala. Tiwala is a type of spell that they used to make, a little thing that the ladies used to brew and give the husbands to, make him love them more. So they used to mix a little potion, a little thing that they would, sip it and drink or something and hoping that, the love would increase. And this was something that they had in those days. It's still present today. It's still present today. They have a name for it where I came from. They call it they have a name for it where I came from. It's a type of potion that they work. The name for it is opium. And actually, they're involved with the jinns. And they mix it up and they put a little this and a little that. And, when he comes in, there it is. Take a sip. They basically had it. The tradition of past, the tradition of Shaitan was there from that time. And so that Ibn Mas'ud teaches them. Of course, we know that there are certain types of incantations in the Quran that are acceptable. As the Prophet ﷺ explained, and as the Sahaba did in his time. He goes on to explain now, she wants to explain to her husband, why am I wearing this? This brother is commanding in a beautiful way with his right. And he's doing what he can do without causing any fitness in his house. And he wants to emphasize that this thing is evil. You don't do that if you're part of this family. And she goes on, she wants to let you know why I did it. And she says, one day I left home and a man saw me. And the eye that was near to him started to shed tears. The eye that I got this charm done. And when I took it and I wore it, the tears stopped. When I wore it, the tears stopped. One of the things we like to experiment looking at this job of the devil, of the shaitan, is to confirm your disbelief in him. He is there to get you to believe in anything other than Allah. Don't you see these Christians when they go to their seminar and the person is said or claimed to be possessed, they say, in the name of Jesus Christ, come out. And the jinn is supposed to leave. Well, do you think he leaves because there is power in that name? Or he leaves because he wants you to believe that there is power in this name along with Allah? He wants to confirm shirk. For you to believe, yes, that just like you can call on your God, you can call on this person and they're the same. 3 in 1. And so Ibn Mas'ud teaches his wife, he said, that was shaitan, that was a devil, shaitan. When you obeyed him, he left you alone. When you obeyed him, he left you alone. And when you disobeyed him, he tricked you. It would have been sufficient for you to do what the Messenger of Allah did. SubhanAllah. It would have saved you from your senses. It would have saved you in your deed from committing sin. All you had to do was to follow the path of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, all you had to do, take some water and say, أذهب البأس والضيق وأشفاء إلا شفائك شفاء كل رجل سقم. It would have been sufficient for you to say, Lord of Master, remove the ailment. You are the one who truly cures. There is no one who can cure other than you. A cure that leaves no ailment. This was a method of teaching, commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong. It allows for a lasting impression in the mind of the person if it is done correctly. She will never forget what he said. She will never forget that experience because of the way it was presented and how he listened and then taught, this is what you should have done. Instead of should, this is what you should have done. That's one of the outstanding benefits that we find all through the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, examples of that method of teaching in commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong. If it is done correctly, it leaves a person more educated in his deen, to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ was good at this. The best. Person comes in the masjid, sees the Prophet ﷺ sitting down with a group of brothers. And he says to him, have you prayed 2 rak'ahs before you sat? He says, no, I saw you sitting down. He says, no. Now he's teaching everyone around. Those who might have known or those that might not have known. Everyone. If any of you enters the masjid, he should not sit until he prays to him. The same thing he said to Sulaykh al-Ghatafani on the Jum'ah. The same thing. While he was giving his khutbah. Have you prayed? No. Get up. Pray 2 rak'ahs. You made them right. Perfect your ruku and your sujood, but don't lengthen it. Don't recite Surah Al-Baqarah. Okay? Among the benefits also that we find in commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong, not only on the individual level, but also on the societal level, on the social level, in the community, is that it is a method for breaking and clamping down on innovations in this game. If people were to keep silent, if those brothers and sisters who know what to keep silent and allow for everything that people desire to happen in this deen, we would have no deen left. We would have like what had taken place in Canada. The brothers and sisters were standing on line to line, shoulder to shoulder, and saying, Allahu Akbar. What were they thinking of? Not Allah. There is a wisdom, there is some reason why the sisters are behind and the brothers in front. Use your intellect. This is modern times here. We don't need all that stuff back then. That was for that time. In spite of the sunnah of the Prophet. This is why when this person, as Ibn Uyayna speaks, he said, I heard Malik ibn Anas, that a man came to him and he said, Ya Aba Abdullah, where should I go into the state of Ihram? He said, from the place, the Hulayfa, where the Prophet ﷺ went to Ihram, follow the Sunnah. He said, I want to make Ihram from the masjid, from in front of the grave. I want to add a few miles. I'm going to try and do something that is good. Add a few miles. It's not sufficient, from Hulayfa. Let me start from the masjid and go in front of the grave. Something special in the grave. Prophet ﷺ, about his station, when they know that Allah's Messenger said, do not be excessive in praising me the way that people praise Isa ibn Maryam. I am a servant of Allah and His Messenger, so say that about me. And he said to him, Imam Malik said, I fear that some fitna or trial is before you. I fear that some trial or some fitna is before you. And this brother said, what fitna could there be in adding only a few miles? Imam Malik taught him a principle that we need to reflect on. He said, what fitna could be greater than you think that you could come with a deed of righteousness that the Prophet ﷺ was unable to perform? What fitna is greater than for a man who believes in Allah on the last day and who takes the shahada that there is no God worthy of worship other than Allah and that Muhammad is His servant and His messenger, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to come and think that you could come with some righteous deed that the Prophet was unable to produce? What fitna is greater than that? He said, because I heard Allah saying in His book, فَلْيَحْذَرِ الَّذِينَ يُخَالِفُونَ عَنْ أَمْرِهِ أَنْ تُصِيبَهُمْ فِتْنَةٌ أَوْ يُصِيبَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. I hear Allah in His book saying, let them be aware, those who go against the command of the Prophet ﷺ, that some trial should befall them or some dire punishment. One of the benefits then, is that it closes the door to that avenue of the relation. The society, not the individual. And this is how Imam Malik addressed it on other issues when people came asking other things. One of the benefits also is that it is something that the individual benefits from even after his death because it is beneficial knowledge. The person who points out the way to righteousness receives the reward of the one who performs that act. So if you tell a person about a sunnah and he revives it, and he passes it on to his children and to the brothers in the society, that sunnah continues to be a part of his righteous deeds after they have covered him with doom. The Prophet ﷺ likened it to sadaqah. Amr bil ma'ruf sadaqah. Also forbidding what is wrong. In one narration he says, as-sadaqah tutfi'u al-khati'ah kama yutfi'u al-ma'u an-nar. That giving extinguishes evil deeds, the same reward extinguishes. Dear brothers, among the things that we have, and before closing out, my voice is disappearing, is that it helps those in charge to remember their duties and to keep on the right path, socially in this team. One of the things that our Sheikh pointed out a few moments ago is that directing what is right and what is wrong to the leaders is for the ulama. Because they know how to do it. They understand the implications of this and that in the context of the deen. And so they can weigh what we call the benefits and masalih. They weigh that. They have the ability to do it. As for a person who just comes up and he says, man, this is haram. Allah says it's haram and fight against evil, and they start doing things like that. That was not the understanding of our forefathers in this team. One of the things that you try to do is that you're commanding what is right be right. And you're forbidding wrong, stay away from being just that wrong. And you weigh things in the context of the deen. So it helps those in charge to keep in perspective, to keep on the straight path. In closing out this particular sitting and outstretching out, and I think this particular narration from our brother, the Sahabi al-Nu'man ibn Bashir summarizes the reality of this important duty of the believers. He says, those people who transgress Allah's deen and those who are on the straight path are like two groups on a ship. One up on top of the other beneath. Those people beneath, whenever they desired water, they had to pass by those on top. This is a picture of a society. They would pass by those on top, and they said, you know, instead of disturbing the folks on top, let's dig a hole to the bottom end. Get some water directly from the ocean. Let's get an axe and let's dig in here. We don't want to disturb the folks on top. Let's open up the bottom of the boat. Get some water, fresh water, salty water. Let's not disturb the folks on top. Let's go directly to the source of water. The Prophet ﷺ says, if they were to leave them and what they intend to do, everyone would be destroyed. If they hold their hands and prevent them from what is evil, everyone will be saved. Is the bottom line in respect to the benefits that we receive when we command what is right and we forbid the wrong. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. I had 2 minutes and that was it. The questions are for the Sheikh al-Halabi.
Inshallah. This brother wants to add something, which I think you already said that, alhamdulillah. But inshallah, he says, I would like to add something about al-Khawarij. That is, they were not denying al-Quran or Sunnah, But the problem was that they did not understand and follow Al-Quran wa Sunnah according to the Sahaba. And I think you mentioned that. You want to add something?
Yeah.
Okay, this question says, is there ever a time when, in advising a brother about something, you have a valid reason to show extreme anger? Like, can you show extreme anger if he's doing something wrong? Is there examples? Can you raise your voice? Can you yell at him? Sometimes. Is this effective or... I don't know, I can't read that, but inshallah you understood the question.
Well, I think one of the principal things when looking at commanding what is right and forbidding what is wrong, one of the things that a person should be aware of is the people that you're addressing. And I found this to be extremely important. There are some times when that's not necessary, but other times when it is. And there are some people, if you were to raise your voice at them, they understand exactly what you mean. And you get your point across. Other people you do that to, they get belligerent. You talking to? You crazy? And those are two different types of personalities. And I think one of the things that would be dealt with is that whatever a person does, whatever he intends to do,